Linda, I've seen your attack on the on the chamber. You're one of the few organizations, AAJ, interestingly enough, is one of the few organizations in America that really is kind of a watchdog about what the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is up to most of the time. I saw you respond to when the U.S. Chamber of Commerce came out and actually had a program to diminish the importance of the Buy America campaign that was put on by the unions. The U.S. Chamber comes out and discourages people from buying American. Then we see the U.S. Chamber come out and they say, well, you know, we service 2 million small businesses. Well, no, ends up that's a lie. At best, it's 100,000 businesses, but really what it comes down to is 19 companies, 19 mega companies that control the entire narrative, the entire dialogue of the U.S.
Insurance
Chamber.
Companies, tobacco companies, big companies. It's not your small mom and pop anymore. Maybe at one time it was, but not anymore. It's big business. You know, Mike, one of the things that you might not know is, you know, sometimes when the public wants to hold companies accountable, like when they produce or distribute Chinese drywall that causes them their kids to get sick, they have to go overseas to pursue their remedies. And so there's a bill in Congress actually that we thought the Chamber of Commerce should like that would say that foreign companies have to abide by the same rules that American companies abide by. And you know what? The Chamber doesn't agree. So, I mean, it's really just frustrating.
Well, what it does, Linda, is it shows what you've been saying and the AAJ has been saying all the time is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, number one, does not represent small business at all. I mean, that is a big myth. And secondly, if you look at where their ties are, why would they object to legislation like that? Because Walmart is at the table, and Walmart, they love to go to places like India and China and pay 5 cents for something that would cost them $2 at very least in America, because we pay a living wage in America, and they have slave labor in places like India and China. So they don't want that kind of change. And if it wasn't really for the AAJ, if it wasn't for what you were doing, I don't know these stories would ever be told. A lot of the times, you are the source of the stories. Look, let me just tell you something. One thing that I saw you follow, because it ties directly into the Chamber of Commerce story, is when the Chamber of Commerce came out year after year and continues to come out year after year, trying to say that the 98,000 people who die every year of medical malpractice, that they shouldn't have a right, their families should not have a right to go to court. And this has been a mantra for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for so long. And we think at first blush it is, well, this is good for the doctors. This is about the doctors. Well, no, it's about the insurance companies that sit at that table with Walmart and Exxon and, you know, the biggest Merck and Pfizer, the biggest corporations in the world. The chamber is really trying to protect the insurance companies, not the doctors.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if the Chamber wanted to be productive, what we all could do is make sure those 98,000 people didn't get injured in the first place. I think everyone in America could agree on that. But instead, when individuals get injured or killed, the Chamber's running up to Capitol Hill saying they shouldn't be compensated. They shouldn't be able to rebuild their shattered lives. And we think that is horrible, inappropriate, and they should be unmasked for who they're representing, they're representing the big insurance companies.
Well,
you're exactly right.
Yeah, one thing you've always talked about, Linda, and I followed it, is that, you know, if you take a look, we have some history to look at. We can look at states where they've said, the insurance company comes in and says to the doctors, look, if you let us cap a person's right to be able to recover. If you amputate the wrong leg, and we tell that family that, gee, I'm sorry the doctor amputated the wrong leg, but we can only pay you $100,000. If you get that kind of legislation passed in our state, then your insurance premiums are going to go down. And just the opposite has been true, isn't it?
We actually haven't found any examples of states that have done what they call tort reform, which is just another word for eliminating people's rights. We haven't found any, when any state does that insurance rates are affected and that they go down. Instead, insurance companies have to pay out less, and so they're getting more profitable. And unfortunately, the doctors should be with us. trying to do whatever we can together to make sure that the injury that the injury doesn't happen in the first place. The most frustrating thing about the chamber is that while they're going to Congress trying to shut the courthouse doors for everyone else, like your grandmother and your neighbor, they're trying to open it up for them. They are the most litigious group in Washington. The chamber is one of the most aggressive litigators in Washington, D.C., where it pertains to their rights, what they can do. And they're proud of it. They would like to sue the SEC, they're litigation happy. They just don't disclose that to the Congress or to the administrative agencies that they're trying to impact. It really is like Tom Donahue saying, do as I say and not as I sue. But to make it harder or impossible in some cases for individuals to get recovery when they lose the wrong leg or when the wrong leg is amputated or whatever is reprehensible. It's the last thing you should be doing.
I saw a quote one time, I think his name was Tom Baker, University of Pennsylvania, where this guy, he's probably studied the problem of medical malpractice and the interaction of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce trying to convince people to close the door to victims. He comes out and he says, we have an epidemic of medical malpractice and not malpractice lawsuits. And this is a guy it's not like he just picked up a book and read. He studied it for years. And he says we have an epidemic of medical malpractice. But right now we have every profession, just as you said, has this bad apples. They have bad doctors. There are no exceptions. Doctors are no exceptions. And if you take a look at the numbers, what is it? 6%. 6% of all of doctors are responsible for about 60% of all medical negligence. Are those numbers about right?
Right. Yet on the insurance side, they don't experience rate for those bad apples. So that you have the same. Let's say you have the same anesthesiologist in Poughkeepsie committing malpractice over and over again. What happens is that instead of telling that anesthesiologist that maybe they should do something else, you're elevating the rates for everyone else, all the anesthesiologists in a small group. So you're not using economies of scale.
In other words, get rid of the bad apple and your prices go down.
Right.
Okay, so right now, I think the things that I'm saying about the Chamber of Commerce's effort to do bidding, again, not on behalf of doctors. They could care, I'll tell you, Linda,
right.
They could care less about doctors. Doctors don't send them the bill, the millions of dollars they get every year. It's these large corporations. So when they do the bidding on behalf of the insurance companies, which is what this is all about, they are running into a little more of a problem now, because now in America, I think it's 1 in 3 Americans say that they have family members that have experienced medical malpractice. It didn't used to be like that. In other words, they could sell these ridiculous talking points like doctors are leaving, doctors are having to retire because of malpractice, or we're going to have to close a hospital because of medical malpractice. These ridiculous, absurd arguments that are just nothing but fantasy. They're just completely flat-out lies.